All right, welcome in everyone. Really appreciate you joining us as we go through the 2023-24 Evidence of Impact Annual Report for iWellness Center. I'm Adam Hartley, joined by Dr. Hartley and Dr. Mertler here today. Just a little bit of background of what we're going to be diving into, looking at some of the data, the key data points that we were able to gather through our partnerships in the 2023-2024 school year, looking at what that data is, what it means, and how it can help you make an impact in the work that you are doing. And so quickly want to mention, this is the first of what will be many evidence of impact reports from iWellness Center. And the exciting part about that is we'll be here same time next year and be able to look at the differences, the improvements that we're making, and some more really interesting key points when it comes to the data. So with that being said, let's do some introductions. Like I said, I'm Adam Hartley. I'm the Director of Business Development and Partnerships at iWellness Center. Dr. Mertler, why don't you introduce yourself quickly and tell us a little bit about your background and role here at iWellness?
Sure. Thank you, Adam. My name is Dr. Craig Mertler. I am an educational research methodologist. I've been a professor of research methodology for almost 30 years now. And so my area of specialization is research methods, data analysis, data use, and I am serving in a role as an external research partner for iWellness.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. Dr. Hartley.
Yes, thank you, Adam. I am the Chief Innovation Officer is my title, among other kind of hats that I wear for iWellness Center. I work directly with Dr. Mertler on the research team and really have been focused on a few initiatives, one across the state of Michigan called iWellness, and it really is a cohort of rural, suburban, and urban districts that we have been working with throughout this year. This is year one of three of a multi-year case study, and excited to gain insights on how our platform is helping schools reduce anxiety and depression among students, reduce truancy, and really increase engagement and increase the perception and the reality of a safe learning environment.
Fantastic. Really quickly, if you could, in 30 seconds, can you give us the pitch? What is iWellness and how do we do what we do?
30 seconds. All right, here we go. So essentially, iWellness came out of this frustration of schools reacting to behaviors, reacting to students. In my case, suspending, expelling students. When we know a behavior is simply a symptom of what's going on with a student, with all humans, emotionally. And so iWellness was born with this idea from our CEO that if we could give students a voice in their own wellness, for them to consistently on a weekly basis share how they're doing, then schools could be proactive versus reactive. So there's kind of three legs to iWellness: being proactive versus reactive, giving students a voice in their wellness, and then the flexibility of our platform. So schools being able to really use our software in their early warning systems and their multi-tier system of support, whatever their staffing capacity, whatever their systems and their protocols look like. So we're very fluid in that nature. So essentially how it works is students sign into our platform. They answer 7 questions. They're all rooted in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So really looking at how students are feeling from a safety perspective, love and belonging, self-esteem, and then ultimately self-awareness, which really is that growth mindset and resiliency, that goal that we as humans all strive to get to. They take the check-in, That data and what sets us apart, that data is then in the school administration, counselors, social workers, in their lap within seconds. And so they use our platform to see how our students are doing in real time, how they're reporting. And then they're broken up into green, yellow, and red. Red being those priority students, high needs at the time, yellow being some needs, and then green are students reporting that they're thriving, they're doing pretty well. And essentially, you look at those red students first and giving those supports in real time.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And I think, one really important point here, and you touched on this, is the student voice. And so as we dive into the data here and our key findings, I just want to make sure I make a note of that this is not support staff and adults around a student speaking for them. These are data points that we got specifically from the students, and these are all student voices. So with that being said, Dr. Mertler, why don't you quickly take us through the data and how we're collecting that, and then we'll dive into what it means and what we found.
Okay. So Dr. Hartley mentioned the fact that these check-ins occur on, for most cases, on a weekly basis, sometimes a bi-weekly basis. But this is giving students an opportunity to directly share their feelings, their own self-assessments of their own mental wellness and mental health on a regular basis. And one of the things that we think really differentiates this platform from any others is the frequent and consistent check-ins and that provision for student voice on a regular basis. So this is not the kind of thing where we assess students' mental wellness one time in September and then another time in May, and that's it. This is something that is occurring every week throughout the school year. So there's a constant check-in, there's constant feedback, and that's really important for school staff to be able to get a very good picture of how students are doing on a regular basis, to really be able to keep up with their own mental wellness. Dr. Hartley also mentioned that there are 7 questions that students respond to during these weekly check-ins that fall into 4 sort of construct areas: safety, love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-awareness. One of the things that school staff are able to do is to look at individual questions or statements to see how students respond. They can break it down by grade level, they can break it down by gender, and we'll look at some of that in just a couple of minutes. But the other thing that he also mentioned is the fact that there's an algorithm built into the platform that will combine the responses across those 7 items during each check-in and then classify students as either red, yellow, or green. Obviously, students who are classified in the red are the ones that school staff are going to be most concerned about and want to very quickly and proactively look at to see what sort of interventions they might take in order to help alleviate the anxiety or the stress that those students are feeling.
Let's take a look at the data, and first data point we've got here is the top struggle areas by district type. So Dr. Mertler, why don't you take us through this?
Sure. So one of the things that we were able to do from the 2023-2024 data, and you can see that was almost 38,000 student check-ins across that academic year, is to break that out by response category and district level. So you can see in this top bar graph that each of the 7 questions is listed across the axis, the horizontal axis, and then the percentage of response on the vertical axis. One of the things that we try to do is to focus on primarily with some of the reporting on students who indicate that they are struggling in these certain areas. So the student response set, they respond to each of the statements in 4 categories in terms of the frequency that they feel comfortable or not comfortable. Not at all, some days, nearly every day, and I'm forgetting one, most days. So what we do in a lot of the reporting is combine the not at all and the some days as the 2 lowest categories in terms of sort of red flagging student struggle areas. So you can see in that top bar graph that by the percentage of response, you can see that the urban districts tend to have a much higher percentage of response where students are struggling in several of those areas. But this is a nice sort of big picture view of those 38,000 check-in surveys and what that looks like and breaks down across the district type. In the table at the bottom, we've sort of summarized that information to focus on what the top 3 struggle areas were for each of the district types, rural, suburban, and urban, and then again sort of the overall across the state of Michigan. So these are the same data, but now broken out by grade level. And so in the left-hand column, you can see each of the grade levels from grades 3 through 12, the number of surveys or student check-ins that occurred across that academic year, and then the top struggle areas for each of those grade levels, again, with the percentage of response in the right-hand column signified by the combination of students who responded not at all or some days. One of the things that I always find so interesting about these data is that there's a lot of consistency sort of across grade levels and across ages. So you can see at the younger ages, grades 3 through 6, that their top struggle area was their sense of ability to handle challenges that came up. As we get into the middle grades, grades 7 and 8, stress is obviously their biggest struggle area. And then with the older grades at the high school level, grades 9 through 12, self-esteem tends to be the predominant struggle area. So we've always found this very interesting, I think, that these things sort of begin to cluster together. They're not really random. And you can certainly see how younger grades versus older grades, ages of students, really tend to gravitate toward very specific struggle areas. And that's not to say that they don't struggle in other areas, but these are just the ones that we sort of identified as the top based on the student responses from those 38,000 check-ins.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I like how you brought up the point of, the elementary level is they're seeing the same issues and struggle areas amongst, and it doesn't matter the district type, and kind of grouping those together. So, no, I think it's very, very interesting, and as we move through this here, what you're seeing now, this is a case study in a suburban high school that that we've been running over the last couple years, and you're able to see that year-over-year difference and those positive changes in the data. And so, Dr. Hartley, can you speak on this and touch on how are schools taking the iWellness data and then putting that into supports for students or game plans for students, and how are they using this data to see a positive difference in their school culture?
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to give a few examples. I'll start with this one that we are fortunate to work with a large high school in the state of Michigan over a 2-year period. And what you're seeing there is their efforts to target the real-time support. And the feedback that we get from staff all the time is that they have data that they've never had. We have counselors, social workers, administrators that have been, in education 20 plus years, that they get excited because they really haven't had in kind of this consistent quality software platform to allow them to gain this information from the student themselves, because we can make assumptions all day long in our perceptions, again, on behaviors that are symptoms of what's really going on with our students. So what you're looking at here is over a 2-year period where this large high school used the iWellness platform to specifically look at where students are on a weekly basis. Again, getting that data in real time, connecting with those students that day. So it may have been a conversation. It may, after 2 or 3 weeks, if they're landing in the red or the yellow, getting them more of that tier 2 intervention, so seeing counselors or social workers more on a consistent basis. So they're collecting data themselves, they're taking that data, they're then making informed decisions on what supports to give those students. And what we hear all the time, and what we heard from this high school and continue to hear, it saves them time. They get to know their students on a more deeper level because they're constantly checking in. And then the time they've spent with them, what you're seeing here, this positive outcome, the time isn't spent so much on asking how they're doing. It's working with them on the intervention, the supports, the strategies that they can own on, okay, I'm feeling anxious this week, my friendships are really struggling, therefore my grades are struggling, therefore I don't want to come to school, whatever that looks like. They're able to continue to work with them in real time. And what you see is this positive outcome because they've targeted those data-driven supports.
Yeah, and the results are really, really powerful. And just a couple of things before we move on that I want to highlight is, do you feel safe at school? A 10% increase in students answering nearly every day. Do you feel connected to others? An 11% increase year over year of students answering nearly every day. Do you have strong self-esteem, which we know is a key struggle area for high schoolers based on our data, and we see a 10% increase year over year. So yeah, just to kind of tie up what Dr. Hartley was speaking on is that this data is so important in identifying what those struggle areas are and allowing schools to make informed decisions when it comes to their support systems and their interventions. Very powerful stuff here, and again, just like the last slide, we're able to see the year-over-year difference. And so the iWellness surveys turning into that real-time data, which then turns into informed decision-making on intervention and support system, we're able to see a year-over-year, 1% decrease in the red and a 3% decrease in the yellow, and we see that 4% made up in the greens and in the green surveys. And so a 4% increase of student surveys coming back in the green, which is fantastic news. So, all right, Dr. Mertler, why don't you wrap us up here on the research and go into the iWellness 3-year research plan.
All right, so I'll just sort of overview this really quickly. Dr. Hartley mentioned early in our presentation that we had developed this iWellness initiative to over the course of 3 years to really look at the effectiveness of what iWellness is doing in schools across the state of Michigan. And so we have designed this research study as a comprehensive approach to gathering our own data outside of what is gathered specifically within the platform to really look at the overall effectiveness. This is a mixed methods research design, so it's focused on collecting both qualitative and quantitative data. There are 5 guiding research questions that focus on student perceptions, staff perceptions, intervention strategies, engagement with action research, as you heard Dr. Hartley talk about, and the impact on other school measures like truancy, absenteeism, discipline referrals, those kinds of things. Their participants are going to include virtually anybody that you can imagine in a school setting. Central office staff, building administrators, counselors, school psychologists, social workers, classroom teachers, and of course, the students. Data collection will be quite varied. We'll, of course, begin with the student check-in data because that's the basis for everything that we're doing. But we'll also pre and post survey the students. We'll conduct focus groups with the students. We'll do pre and post surveys with the staff, staff interviews, and staff focus groups. So again, we're trying to get directly from these sources their own voices and their interpretation and assessment of how this is impacting them, not just on an annual basis, but really on a weekly and daily basis. I mentioned the data analysis will consist of both quantitative and qualitative analyses. One of the things that you could see already from the data that we presented in this year's annual report is that we have the ability, and we'll plan on sharing both aggregated and disaggregated check-in data, comparing across a variety of demographic characteristics like school district type and grade levels and things like that. And then there'll be a wide variety of dissemination strategies that we use, the least of which will be the annual reports like you're hearing right now, but also executive summaries, an overall 3-year report summary. We'll be doing presentations at conferences and also presentations to individual districts who want to hear us talk more about the impact that iWellness may be having on them.
Fantastic. No, it's really exciting stuff, and thank you, Dr. Mertler. And thank you to everyone if you're watching this. We appreciate you guys taking the time and going through this with us. You know, we think we've got some really interesting insights here, and we were excited to share, and we're excited to continue to share what we're finding and try to drive that positive change when it comes to mental wellness and the overall well-being of students in the educational world. So, Dr. Hartley, we're going to finish up with you here, and why don't you send us off with just kind of wrapping us up, why iWellness matters and why the work that we're doing is so important.
Absolutely. I'll do this quick. So one, early identification, early support. Before iWellness was born, that research has been around for decades. If you catch emotions and behaviors early and you give that support early, it deters harmful behavior, whether it's self-harm or harm to others. So that's key. Integration into multi-tiered system of support, or PBIS, early warning systems, whatever that looks like in school districts. Our platform has been proven to be able to be used in whatever capacity makes sense for school districts. Student voice equals student engagement and student empowerment. When you're working with preteens and teens, again, that research has been around for as long as I know I've been walking this earth. Empower students to have ownership in their own wellness, and you will see a positive outcome. Data-driven insights and decision-making, huge. What's powerful about our platform, it gives the ownership to the practitioner in the trenches doing the work. Again, there's great research out there on a very wide 30,000-foot view, but when you give the counselors and the social workers and the administrators this tool and they can be the researcher themselves, you save time. We hear all the time how this takes things off of educators' plates. It doesn't add to it. And then finally, I think I mentioned this, just kind of the act of asking within itself, but students feeling safer, students feeling more connected to the adults, because essentially the school is asking how they're doing on a consistent basis. And that alone is powerful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Hartley. And again, I just kind of want to wrap up here. If you are listening to this, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you giving us your eyes and ears and looking at these insights that we feel are so impactful. If you guys are looking to get more information, if your district is not using iWellness and you want to be using iWellness, you can reach out to us. You can get more information on our website at iwellnesscenter.org. And then I'm also going to be dropping an email address on the video right here where you can reach out to us directly. And again, you might just be interested in learning some more about the data that we've collected and our insights, or maybe you're interested in partnering. Maybe you want iWellness active in your school, whether it's your building or your entire district. So again, Dr. Mertler, thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Hartley, thank you. And to everyone out there listening, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.